Hi, welcome to Just Another Land Cruiser. Today I'm going to go over the spare parts that I carry on me all the time, mainly for engine related issues, but I do carry some spares for the vehicle itself. Everything I bring, and this is my daily, never leaves the vehicle spare kit. Everything fits in this little box. If I am doing long travel, I may add a few more items in here, but everything in here has a purpose. It's something either I didn't have before when I broke down, or I'm glad I did have when I broke down because it was an easy fix. So to start off with, I always carry, this is the one thing I do not put in the box. It fits nicely over in the 80 series where the jack goes. I just kind of slip this behind the panel. And this is just regular old heater hose. I had this as when I had, my heater core broke and I had to bypass the heater for a while, and this is what I use. So if I do have that problem again, without coolant leaking into the passenger compartment or just leaking coolant in general, I can bypass with this. So that always stays, and it is, heater hose is always something good to carry. All right, now to the box. Serpentine belt. The Cummins runs off one belt, so if you break the belt, you're dead in the water. Carry a belt. It's a very easy replacement. It takes 5 minutes. Just some fuel line. Always carry that. Good for stuff. Stock hub flange. I run part-time hubs now, but if I do break a hub, right now I don't have a spare manual hub, so I still carry the stock hub flange. I could always go back to this if for some reason hub breaks, put this one back on, and I'm not stuck not wheeling again for the weekend or something like that. Thermostat housing. This is a custom housing. I have cracked one already in the past, so I carry a spare just in case I have a cracked thermostat housing again. I'm not dead in the water. And I have done this fix in Moab, Utah, the last time I had a thermostat housing issue. This is voltage regulator. This is an upgraded model. I've had this one fail on me before. That I had, this is the replacement. I have another one. This one was replaced under warranty, but I also had another voltage regulator go out in New Mexico. And I didn't have a spare, and I ended up boiling over both my batteries due to over voltage. It's something I can pick up, and any O'Reilly's going to have the voltage regulator for the Dodge, but it's something I'd rather not have to go find a store to replace. I think I had to go 80 miles with no alternator after that happened until I got to a store to find a regulator, so now I carry a spare. Seals just for the hubs, in case I do have to take off a hub, I could put new seals on. Hose clamps. Hose clamps are always good to have. Temperature switch for my gauge. It's always good to have another one of those. This one is actually a 185. I actually have a 195 in here right now. I prefer my electric fans to come on at 195 rather than 185, but this is the one that I previously had in. Takes up no room, I just keep it in the spare box. Thermostat. This is also one I took out. There's nothing wrong with this one, so it is now my spare. Outer hub bearings. These are used ones, but they're in good shape, so now the race and the bearing just go in for spares. Fusible Links. On the Toyota, when these go out, you're kind of dead in the water. For me, not so much. I don't think on this vehicle this comes into play with my engine conversion, but I do carry two. They're relatively cheap. If I don't use it, if I'm around somebody that does, I got a spare. Radiator cap. It's just, they go out. This one's brand new. They're relatively cheap. I always carry a spare. 2 tie rod ends. Carry a left-hand thread and a right-hand thread. These are used. I took them off when I put new ones on the vehicle, so they'll be good enough if I have one just catastrophic failure. I have some used ones that get me back. Here's a big one for me. This is a AC delete pulley for the 12 valve Cummins. And the story behind getting this is drove Padre Island National Seashore, which is Pins. It is 60 miles of beach driving, one way in, one way out. So we drove the 60 miles to the end for the weekend, and then 10 miles into the return, my pulley on my AC just blew up. And well, that was a big problem. I didn't have a belt short enough to bypass it. I didn't have this at the time. So I had a buddy tow me 50 miles on the beach, which took 3 hours, I think, 3-4 hours till we got back to Corpus Christi. And then I went to O'Reilly's and got a new AC compressor to get myself home. So now this is always in my kit. Now another way to go around this where you don't have to carry this is get a shorter belt. So you can bypass the alternator, or not, sorry, alternator, but you can bypass the AC. I figured this was basically the same price as a shorter belt. I'd rather have this and not have to carry two different belts, just carry this, and my one belt fits both. Oil filter, never had a failure with an oil filter, but I always carry one with me just in case. Then say I'm on a long trip, you go someplace and they don't have, I like to use a factory Cummins Fleet Guard oil filter. If I pull into a oil change shop, I don't really want the Fram or whatever crappy filter that they're trying to sell me. I have one that I can give them, hey, put this on. Fuel filter. This is a must for any diesel automobile. You get a hold of bad fuel, you get your fuel out, well, now you got crappy fuel in your filter. These are easy to take on and off of most diesels, so carry a spare. And another story on when I did have a failure with the fuel filter, same trip that I boiled over my batteries, I was almost in Fort Stockton driving back from Moab, and I started noticing my fuel gauge just dropping rapidly. I pulled into a truck stop outside of Fort Stockton, and I just had diesel just pouring out underneath the vehicle. Shut it down. Once I did my inspections, I realized the fuel filter had cracked. Whether it was I got water in the system and it froze because it was negative temps at that point, but literally in 5 miles I lost 3/4 of a tank of diesel. Now the underside of my vehicle is perfectly clean due to that, but didn't help. But I did have a fuel filter, so it was a easy fix. So always carry a fuel filter. Another thing on Cummins related, the 12 valve Cummins has a water and fuel sensor, and it is a little plastic contraption that sits on the bottom of your fuel filter. I don't have anything on the dash that tells me I have water in the system, so I would just kind of push up on the piece of plastic, drain a little fuel out every oil change just to make sure I didn't have water in the system. But I am very anti-plastic, especially on a part that makes your vehicle go. And those are notorious for leaking, so I found a fuel filter that does not use the crappy Cummins plastic whiff sensor that screws on. This one has a manual drain for water. So that's what I carry. And last thing is bag of bolts. Always good to have. I have a bolt, basically I can do a front knuckle rebuild with these bolts. Basically has one of every size on the vehicle, on the knuckle, plus I carry caliper bolts, brake rotor caliper bolts. I lost one, not on this vehicle, but on my BJ40 on the way to Colorado last year, and due to me carrying the spares, pulled over, tightened the one back on, and then had to insert a new bolt from the one that fell out. Caliper bolts are not something that you can find on the vehicle that I'm aware of. It's a very distinct bolt, fine thread. So carry them. Other things I have in here is wheel studs. I have in the past broken wheel studs. Unfortunately, at that time when I broke the wheel studs, the wheel fell off, and the Jeep I had at the time I flipped, so there was no fixing that one. But just in case, I carry front and rear wheel studs, several of each. A couple other things I have in here is hub studs, just in case I'm taking the hub off, I strip a bolt or something. Steering nuts, or steering bolts and nuts for the front. This is one of those things, when they come loose, then if it falls off, you're going down the highway. Not only your steering, you can't steer, but off-road you can also break them. I like to have a replacement. Good to have. A couple other things in here is just differential and transmission washers for if I got to change the fluids. Also carry one for an oil change. And then just a bunch of random bolts. So that's about it. That is all that I carry in here on a daily basis. And like I said, I'll bump it up when I do a long-term trip. So there you go. If you like this, subscribe to the channel. Just Another Land Cruiser. Give me a like. Let me know a video that you may want to see. I know I will be doing a video just on the engine install and all that good stuff that is related to the Cummins, but for right now I'm just kind of do some other stuff before I get to that. That one's going to be kind of elaborate. So there you go. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Thank you.